I'd like to introduce Aneesa Oumarally. Aneesa is an old friend of mine. She's also the Chief Executive Officer of the Festival Management Committee for the Toronto Caribbean Carnival. I have known Aneesa for over 25 years. She's been involved with Carnival for as long as I know her. We played mass together and had lots of fun when we were much younger. And she still continues to do it, lucky her. She is a barrister and solicitor, partner in a law firm with her husband, Selwyn Babulal, and she was the managing partner there for most of the time that I've known her. But she decided to go off to Rotman and do an MBA a couple of years ago because she's always had an interest in business. And that has led her to being, amongst other things, the CEO of Toronto Caribbean Carnival. She was also their former legal advisor and board member. So I'd like to introduce you to Aneesa, who's going to tell us a little bit about the challenges and the achievements that they've had in putting on a virtual carnival this year.
Okay, Aneesa.
So thank you guys very much for having me today. I am going to be sharing my screen as I do a presentation for you. And I'm going to try to stick to the 20 minutes that David said that I had. I'm very passionate about this, so I might go over. You can stop me. Let me give you a little bit of background. The Toronto Caribbean Carnival has been in existence in Canada since 1967. It was a gift from the Caribbean community to Canada on their 100th birthday. And it has remained a staple of a summer festival over the course of the last 53 years. Of course, it is celebrated on Lord Simcoe weekend. Lord Simcoe was an advocate for the abolishment of slavery, and it is primarily why Carnival is celebrated during that time. The history of Carnival really is celebrates the emancipation of slavery. That is where the roots of Carnival lies. And it has, of course, over time changed significantly. In Canada, how we celebrate Carnival is not only do we celebrate in terms of costumes, which we call mass, which is a shortened name for masquerade, but we also celebrated through steel pan, which is the only instrument invented in the 20th century in Trinidad and Tobago, one of the Caribbean islands. And we also celebrated through calypso. Calypso is an art form, a genre of music that really speaks to what is going on in society. There is, in Trinidad or in the islands, they use calypso to talk to government, to talk about what's happening during the daily lives of people. And so these are really the three basic art forms that Carnival incorporates. A lot of people are not aware, but Carnival is a month-long festival. It starts in July and ends with the Grand Parade on August 1st. The other piece of this that I need to tell you is that I say Carnival. A lot of people knew it as Caravana. Now, Caravana is a trademark. It was trademarked by the predecessors of the current producers of the festival. And that trademark is not allowed to be used by the current producers of the festival by law. There was a lawsuit. And that trademark has been licensed outside of the festival, outside of the community. So from the Toronto Carnival's standpoint, they have not trademarked the name Toronto Caribbean Carnival, Toronto Carnival, because it belongs to the community. But in trademarking and licensing outside of the community, when we use the name Caravana, what we're doing is we're strengthening a brand that does not contribute back to the Caribbean community in the Greater Toronto area or in Canada. So we have now taken the stance that we are not even going to use the name Caravana. We are just going to use the name Toronto Caribbean Carnival or Toronto Carnival. We can't, as the producers, can't even use the name, but we are now educating people so that they're also aware. Toronto Caribbean Carnival is Canada's celebration of freedom and diversity, and freedom is sort of, we celebrated on Emancipation weekend. It comes from Emancipation, but there's more to Toronto Carnival in terms of freedom. A lot of women participate. It's the freedom to be themselves. I play mass all the time. I take off all my hats. I'm not my wife that day. I'm not a child that day. I'm not a mom that day. I'm not a lawyer that day. You're just yourself on the road. So the freedom has really, it's personal, but it's also a dynamic, it's a changing term. And diversity, because if you look at David, myself, and Basil, we all look different. The Caribbean is made up of many different types of people, and these types of people are so diverse because of our history, of course. And so there is a significant amount of diversity in the Caribbean. So today I'm going to be talking to you about how did the Toronto Caribbean Carnival pivot to digital. First, I wanted to kind of show you as to what kind of events we do. Most people think that we just have one event and it's a huge event and that's it. We actually had planned out this year that we would have had these 20 some odd events. And in here, you will see that there were, from March to May, there will be something called band launches. Now, a band is a group of people dressed in the same costume, and these are designers and artisans that create the costuming for the carnival, for the grand parade. And so during March to May, they showcase this almost like in on a runway. And then people who want to participate in the August would purchase a costume from the bands. And then we were going to be doing, of course, we had planned an official launch, and that's where all the Prime Minister, the City of Toronto would have declared July Toronto Caribbean Carnival Month. That's where that usually happens. And then our feature events are a junior carnival, King and Queen, a junior parade. Then we usually have calypso performing artists. In fact, David and I went to see a friend of ours who would sing calypso at many calypso tents. And we call it a tent because in the old days, for people to participate, and we had two types of weather in the Caribbean, hot or rainy. And so to prevent you from the elements, they would put up a tent and you would listen to people sing calypso. So we still call them tents, but they're actually at in-house venues, etc. We also do a junior steel pan showcase. We do a King and Queen showcase, which is one of the most beautiful events that you should go to. And then, of course, we do a grand parade. This year, in 2020, before COVID, we had planned that we were going to do a rum festival and a food festival to round it out, because the Caribbean, you cannot have a festival without good food. And so that's really what our bricks and mortar festival would look like. People would come. You don't have to advertise. The Caribbean community knows this is happening every single year. In fact, it is said that people, when they're building their contracts to work, they actually would say, we are unable to work this weekend because it's Carnival weekend. So it's very indoctrinated and ingrained in people of Caribbean descent, but also people who are part of Toronto's fabric. And one of the important things that I didn't say and I should have said was that you will see that there's a lot of junior events and there's a senior events, or just the event. We have people participating from 0 years of age to all the way to 80 plus. This is a multi-generational festival. So this is important for me to outline, because the United Nations has declared Toronto Caribbean Carnival a cultural heritage property because of the ability to go beyond generations and for us to hand down culture and heritage to generations after us. So this is what our events would look like. And what I've done is I've created the event timeline in pictures. This is what a band launch would look like with the girl coming out and showcasing the beautiful costume. Do you want to purchase this? This is something that you can purchase to wear on the road on Carnival Day. And then this is what our junior carnival would look like. This is what our official launch would look like. We would be at Nathan Phillips Square. And this is what the square would be like packed full with people. And you can see in the background, there are lots of vendors, food vendors. A lot of businesses get a big boost by the carnival. And this is not just Caribbean businesses, but all types of businesses. Then we have a junior parade. Our junior parade is held in the Malvern area in Scarborough. And then we have a junior king and queen. Now you'll see from the proportions of the costume to the person, these costumes are huge costumes. And it costs about $5,000 to $7,000 to create these costumes. And these young people vie for the king or the queen title for that year. If I go further in our timeline, our signature event, which is the King and Queen Showcase. Again, you can see from the proportion of the person to the costume, these are extremely large pieces. And here we showcase these real big pieces, usually the Thursday before the Grand Parade, which is the long weekend, the Simcoe long weekend. And of course, these are our Calypsonians, some of our Calypsonians, and they sing about, you know, what's happening in the day. They create music for our events. And then of course we have Pan Alive. Pan Alive is a competition that's usually held on Friday before the Grand Parade. And it's many steel pan orchestras getting together to vie to see who is the best steel pan orchestra of that time period. When we look at Carnival, these are the views of the Grand Parade. You can see the absolute diversity in the people who are participating, which is why we're a festival of diversity. You can see that we are, unlike Pride, we do have our police services that participate in our festival. And we have a lot of stars that come into Toronto to participate. These three women here are from the Real Housewives of Atlanta. They came in last year to participate. We do have hockey players, NBA stars that also participate in the festival. I'm going to show you some further views of the festival. This is taken just before we hit the quote unquote stage in the exhibition grounds. It's always held in exhibition grounds, by the way. Historically, it used to be held on University, but because we had so many people and because of the loud music trucks that accompany our masqueraders, it has moved to the lakeshore where we would have more room for people to participate. And so before they hit the stage, they are full of energy because they want to showcase the costume. What happens is that different bands vie for the title of Band of the Year. So all of their masqueraders, even though they've paid to play, they want to showcase this costume and make sure that their band becomes Band of the Year. And you can see this, you can see this is the lakeshore. You can't even stick a pin in the lakeshore on this picture here. These are all pictures of the lakeshore. And so you recognize why when COVID-19, when the pandemic hit, why this festival would especially be targeted for cancellation. Of course, this is some of the entertainment that happens on the route. And these are what we call Mokojambis. They're really stilt walkers that perform in their stilts and they're able to dance, etc. So this is what Toronto Caribbean Carnival, if you've never been there, this is what it looks like. It's fun, it's energetic. A lot of people think it is unsafe. In the last 53 years, there has been 2 major incidents. And what those incidents were, one was a police incident and one was an actual violent incident, but that was over 20 some odd years ago. Unfortunately, if something happens in the city of Toronto, it could be completely unrelated to the carnival, but it would be in the news related somehow, saying that, you know, it's Caravana weekend and there was a Caravana shooting. That's just the way that the news has traditionally said this. And so we are working with news agencies to ensure that they're not giving out and sending these messages. A big article this year was written about it in Now magazine. So when we look at this, what you want to know as business people is like, how many people are attending? What's going on here? We have over 1 million people attending this festival every year. We have 95,000 international visitors. There are so many visitors that our hotels are packed, our restaurants downtown are packed. In fact, the deputy mayor called us last year to say, hey, could you guys get a hotel room? Because I'm looking for one for somebody. And, you know, from Hamilton all the way out to Oshawa, all the way north to Barrie, we can't get a hotel room. So we know that the economic impact of the festival is huge, and I will talk about that. There are over 36 ethnicities and backgrounds that participate in the festival, that call this festival theirs. About 70% of people who come in for the festival will return to the festival. Some people do it every single year. And when we talk about gross impressions, these gross impressions were not digital gross impressions. These impressions were newspaper impressions. So over the time, we've counted that we would have during the festival, about 250 million gross impressions. And the economic impact of the Toronto Caribbean Carnival that we've counted is about $400 million into the GDP of Ontario. We did have a speech given to us by the Deputy Mayor, Michael Thompson of the City of Toronto, who said that they've calculated it at about $600 million. We don't do these economic impacts. The festival doesn't do these economic impacts very regularly because it costs a lot of money. So sometimes we do rely on the city to give us some better facts. So how was I going to take, or how was our team going to take this wonderful experience of people getting together at all these events? They don't even need to know that it's coming because they know it's coming. How are we going to do that to create a digital experience? So what we looked at is what is Carnival? And we looked at Carnival, how to recreate it. We looked at it being a sense of community. People want to get together. They want to shake off that winter blah and see their friends and go to places together. It's multi-generational, as I've said. There's a pride in being Caribbean, but there's also pride in the art forms, in the designers, the artisans that participate in this, because you see that everybody's vying for a title. So there's a lot of pride to it. Of course, we needed to showcase and showcase the transfer of culture and heritage from one generation to the next. We wanted to include the collection of memories and experiences from one generation to the next. We wanted people to celebrate, and we wanted to really have this sharing. How are we going to be able to do that on Zoom or any sort of digital piece that we were going to think about? So what we did was we looked at, this is our thought process, we looked at local musical artists, we looked at designers, we looked at artisans like wire bending, etc. We looked at innovators, masqueraders, historians, scholars, chefs, and local businesses to recreate the experience. I'm going to stop share here. I'm going to take you now to our Instagram page. So I'm going to come back and share my screen again. Share. So we started the festival here. You will see that this is our Instagram page, and we got everybody to give us a shout out. And so the Prime Minister of Canada came on and said, Happy Carnival to us. And we started, of course, Carnival, to celebrate, we needed people to participate. So we started with some parties. And then we also thought about, it has to be participatory. Carnival is community. So the only way to have done that would now be to, so this year was a party, to first of all, to look at the leaders in our community that have fallen over the last year, that we lost. So we featured that in interviews. We then featured something called Micro Business Mondays. And we got businesses in the community to showcase their businesses on our various digital platforms. Of course, we still had the Calypso tent, so people could come in and look at the Calypso tents and still get a feel for the Calypso tent. And we were using various digital platforms. So we use Instagram, Facebook, Twitch TV, we did Periscope, and we did one other, YouTube. And so we would use those platforms for people to come in and see the carnival and see what we're doing. We also partnered with different people. And one of the partners that we had was the Caribbean Tales Film Festival. And so they have created exceptionally well done films. They have been in business for the last 15 years. And so they allowed us to use some of their materials during our festival that was created about mass or steel pan, etc. We also reached out to businesses because part of Carnival is getting into those skimpy costumes. You gotta be fit. And so we thought about doing something that could come to fitness, and we did something called Wellness Wednesday. So every Wednesday, one other fitness buff or fitness person would actually do a class on Instagram and Facebook and Zoom for Wellness Wednesday. We, of course, showcased children participating. And how we did that during our Junior Carnival Week, one of the ways is we did a junior cookout challenge. So this young man in this video here, he actually is our junior chef. We do hold a junior chef every year. He is the winner of the junior chef. And he actually created a dish, a jerk chicken taco, and then put it out on Instagram and told young kids, hey guys, see if you could recreate this. And we did that as a challenge, and we had a lot of people buy in, send their videos in so that they can win $100 gift certificates. We also partnered with the Ontario Science Centre. So every single year, we do have a small partnership with the Ontario Science Centre, in that they give an Innovation in Mass award during our King and Queen on the Thursday. That's our senior King and Queen. This year, what they did was they partnered with us so that we could actually do junior events. And some of the events that they did was really exciting, where they did an experiment on a music experiment showcasing how materials would jump because of frequency, etc. And using soca music, the frequency of the music would cause materials on the speaker to jump and form different patterns. So that is what we look like. And of course, we did some wellness for the kids. We did soca size on Junior Carnival. We also did something that we've never done before. We did something called Free Up Yourself. This was a type of symposium that we did, really geared to the LGBTQ plus community, talking about the transection or the cross section, sorry, of being somebody of color, but also having a different sexuality. And so we did have a discussion about that. And that discussion was called Free Up Yourself. And how do people feel about being on the outskirts of their own community in two very different ways? We then also, so those were the kinds of things that we did. And you would see, this is Deputy Mayor Michael Thompson, who said it was about $600 million is our economic impact. And then, of course, we did another challenge called My Toronto Carnival. And what that allowed us to do was to was for people to tell us, what does Toronto Carnival mean to them? And we got a lot of people who would write into us or send videos, and I'm just going to scroll down to see if I could find one for you, basically to tell us what Toronto Carnival meant to them. And that's how we got participation by the community. We also did something called TC Chat, which is Toronto Carnival Chat. And we used people in the community where we would talk to them about various things. This gentleman here called Chris De La Rosa is a chef in the Caribbean community. And he actually gave us a lot of videos over the time. And he talked about the history of food and how food came into Canada. For example, one of the things, he was Trinidadian, and one of the things he said is that Trinidad would get salted fishes from Nova Scotia, and that was back in the days of slavery. And we have a lot of dishes with salted fish that we use, and that was a connection between Canada and the West Indies. So this really was how we recreated a month-long festival. We did something called This is Jab Jab, and that was an event actually done in Grenada. And Jab Jab is really celebrated in Grenada. It's another form of the celebration of emancipation. And with all of the Grenadian artists, and it was streamed in Canada. It was very well done. Of course, the Pièce de Résistance was our Carnival Day. And on Carnival Day, what we did was we actually had something called the virtual road. So usually we call going on the lakeshore the road. This was the virtual road. And we really did not expect it to be what actually happened. In fact, we thought the virtual road, the week before, the media asked me, what would be your idea of success? And I said, my idea of success would be having about 50,000 people participate. In fact, our virtual road was imagined to be, we actually started in, it's a bunch, 13 DJs, 13 hours of soca music, starting in Australia, moving then into Asia, then into Europe, then into the Caribbean, and then coming home to Toronto. We expected about, 50,000 people. We had over 100,000 people participate in our virtual road, and that's what we could count. I went to a party after I worked that day. I went to a party, and there was 23 people at that party, all socially distant. But what was interesting was that party was only counted as one. And when you look at the virtual road, you could see there are 2 people here, there's 2 people here. There's 4 people here. There are many, multiple people in households that participated. What has happened, and so what we put out was that we had over 100,000 people participate. We had 15,000 in-stream engagements. That means people are talking to one another, people are talking to us, and we had, of course, 13 hours of non-stop soca. The truth of it is that, I'm going to stop share here. What the outcome was that by innovating and reimagining, we were able to produce a carnival that people thought was completely amazing. Of course, this was an innovation for this year. I think we'd have to up our game if we have to do something digitally like this next year. But most of us hope that we are back on the road for Toronto Carnival next year. So I know I went over 7 minutes. Sorry about that, guys. Very passionate about the subject. Any questions?
Just from, hi Aneesa, just a little thing you said earlier on in your presentation, that people have such a spirit in making sure they're available this weekend. There was a guy, and Danny's here and Frank's here, who worked with us called Berlin Christmas. And every year he used to say, listen, Carnival weekend, do not ask me to work because I'm not available. So he made that for years and years, that was his weekend. And he was not going to do any work, which we appreciated anyway, right? Because he was a great guy and a great worker. So just something you mentioned, that people wanted to make sure that they cleared their calendar so that they were available that weekend, you know?
That's right. That's right. And we see that all the time. So us having over 100,000 people worldwide, I mean, the city of Toronto was extremely pleased, you know, that we were able to showcase Toronto worldwide. We not only showcased Toronto, the destination Toronto, or Toronto tourism, called this a carnival win because of the ability to keep Toronto at the forefront of the world's mind, even though we're locked down during COVID. So now people are putting this on their bucket lists to say, hey, you know what, we've got to go into Toronto to participate in the carnival.
Very good.
Anybody else? Any questions?
Well, is any sense of the carnival a fundraiser for the projects that you may be otherwise undertaking?
So the carnival has three sources of income. The first source of income is grant funding from the three levels of government. The second source of income are ticket sales. So a lot of those events that we do, we sell tickets for people to come into the event. And then the third source of income is our sponsorships. And so this year, that was extremely difficult. Of course, we still put on a semi-carnival. We still had artisans and designers and everybody participating, but we didn't have the same level of revenues. Of course, we had no ticket revenues, no ticket sales revenues. And then sponsorships also dropped off. You can imagine that in March 16th was the day that Toronto went into lockdown, and a lot of brands could not imagine what a carnival could possibly look like. So a lot of our sponsors dropped off. We are hoping now, and I know that, you know, we're very cognizant of the fact that there are many brands that are being challenged during this time, and a lot of places are closing down. So we hope that whoever remains would come to the Toronto Carnival to showcase their brand, because as you see, there is worldwide reach. In the last week of Carnival, DoorDash came to us, and they're heavily featured. And they told us after Carnival that they wanted us to, they want to do a bigger contract with us for years to come, because they felt that they had enough eyesight. In fact, during the Carnival, people were calling DoorDash and showcasing their thing that they just bought from DoorDash, you know, in support of the brand. So we want to continually encourage sponsorship.
Okay, thank you, Aneesa. Basil, would you mind thanking Aneesa formally, please?
Aneesa, I grew up with Carnival, different islands, not being able to compete with Trinidad, have carnivals at different times, either in December or July or so. And it was an integral part of our upbringing, seeing the different masquerades, some of whom as a kid would be very scary. To see that you've been able to continue Toronto Carnival all these years and always bringing fresh outlooks to it is wonderful. And it's amazing that you have been able to take the time to come and share with us what Carnival means to the city, to the GTA, and to all of us. I know the Scarborough Rotary Club has a Rib Fest on that weekend, so we benefit from all the people coming in from the States, all the local people come into the Rib Fest. Thousands and thousands of people come into the Rib Fest to have ribs, and they all make donations at the gate, which our Rotary Club benefits from. Aneesa, thank you very much for sharing the story with us.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. You know, Toronto Carnival appreciates you listening to our story and learning about us and promoting our brand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aneesa. We just have a few more things to do here. You're welcome.
I'm going
welcome
to
to
drop
kind of
off.
stay on if you want to, but if you have to go, we understand.
Yes, I'm going to drop off now. It was a pleasure meeting all of you. If you need to reach me, David knows how to reach me. You can reach out to me at any time. Take care, guys.
Thank you again.
Thank you. See you.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Bye.